Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. In this video, I want to talk to you about the first time I ever met the Machine Elves. And it was surprisingly hectic. Like, I don't know why I haven't talked about it on this channel yet. Unfortunately, back then I really wasn't ready for it. Back then I just kind of like couldn't deal with it, even though when I was experiencing it felt super real. I just kind of, swept it under the carpet and was like, yep, that's just crazy psychedelics. Don't want to think about that too much. And it wasn't really until like a few years later where I started using psychedelics with more like focus and purpose that I kind of realized what I'd truly actually gone and experienced on my first time meeting these entities. But anyway, may as well just talk about what happened. Just before I do, I want to thank all the patrons of the page right here because honestly, it just means the world that you guys like this channel enough to donate something. So yeah, thank you. As I was saying, this trip happened a long time ago, probably about 4 years ago. And I was taking them more or less recreationally. Like, I knew they had the potential for more than just recreational use, but I didn't know what that potential was. So I was chilling with two of my friends. Basically, these guys were the dudes who I just tripped with recreationally. We basically just watched movies, and if we were having like kind of insightful experiences, we would more or less keep it to ourselves. But this time we got like the strongest acid that I think any of us had ever had. We take this acid, and unfortunately, this was a long time ago. I can't remember a lot of the details about the come up and stuff. I'm just going to focus on the details that I remember. And I hope you don't mind me like going in depth with it. Basically, some stuff happened that I can't remember, but I was suddenly consumed by, I guess you could call them visuals. I'd had plenty of closed-eyed visuals at this point, but it'd always be the case that I'd close my eyes, see the stuff, and when I open my eyes, obviously I'd be back in my body or back in the room. But this acid was so strong that it just kind of, immediately pulled me out of my body, and I was taken into this white light. And it didn't matter if I wanted to leave, it didn't matter if I tried to open my eyes or whatever. I don't think I would have been able to get back into my body or back into the room, but I don't think I wanted to. It really did feel like I was just being guided through a journey. And it felt like I had lifted my head above the water kind of thing. That's the sort of emotional effect that was taking place. It felt like suddenly my head had lifted above illusion and I was seeing clarity. Before me, I can see what looks like mist parting, and it's kind of like the white light sort of parts a little bit, and I'm looking in on my street just like in front of my house, and I can see all my neighbors just like talking on the street. It's all kind of made up of white light, like I'm not seeing it super clearly, it just looks like my street, but everything is void of color, and it's all just kind of filled with this white light energy. As I'm watching my neighbors communicate with one another, I start noticing behind my neighbors these white humanoid entities. I think they were kind of large-headed, and they looked almost like ghosts. Like they were like having large heads, and then their bodies just kind of trailed off into smoke. And I could see or sense at the very least that these entities were talking through my neighbors. It would look like they were kind of controlling my neighbors' actions, but it wasn't really like that. It was more like, because that insinuates that my neighbors were like the prisoners of these entities or some shit. It wasn't a negative connotation, and when I'm seeing it, it wasn't really scary. It was more like my neighbors were these entities. My neighbors were the vessels for these entities to communicate through, or like the vehicles of these entities, something like that. They were what was allowing these entities to communicate with one another on this dimension or in this dimension. That's kind of the sense of what I was getting. I'm taken out of that, and I'm not exactly sure what I see at this point, but I do know I start having narration take place. Like it's like an inner voice is speaking to me and sharing with me really deep secrets. I can't remember what I was being told, unfortunately, by this narration, but I remember it like telling me some fucking facts. And when I came out of this vision, when I was removed from this like white light energy, and I was back in my body, my other friends, my two friends, seemed to be putting their back in their body at the exact same time. And as we start like talking to each other, totally shook by the experience, we realized that we were just taken to the same place and started seeing the same stuff. And the weird thing was, whilst I was there, for some reason, I felt like all of this energy belonged to the word it. And as I'm saying this to my friend, he says the same thing. He's like, oh yeah, it all belonged to the word it. And as soon as he said that, I was like, yes, that's it. That's exactly it. It's it. And all three of us are just like freaking out over the fact that we're using the exact same word. But since then, obviously, like when I sobered up, I was like, it's probably just because somebody threw out the word it and my mind just latched onto it and gave that word all the meaning of what I'd just been through. But then later I uploaded another video which talked about the Truman Show effect, which if you haven't seen that video, it's basically when you take a lot of acid or something and wake up as if you've just woken up on the Truman Show. I made a video on that and somebody in the comments said they went through the same thing and it was connected to an experience where they kind of learnt that there was a giant mystery going on that belonged to the word it. Anyway, that's not the craziest part of the trip. Basically, we calmed down and just start watching whatever movie was on TV. And suddenly I remember seeing like a little person standing on the shoulders of whoever was on the TV screen. I can feel the acid. It's almost like so strong and my inner thoughts have been affected by the acid so much that what I'm seeing doesn't even surprise me. But the actors on the screen start freezing, and as they freeze, more little people or these machine elves start like walking on the actors. It got to the point where it seemed like the machine elves were like almost sending the message of, hey, we control everything. Like, we showed you in this trip that we control everything. Let me take it up a notch and show you that we genuinely can fuck with your timelines, your perception, and whatever else, like to the ultimate degree. Because the actors just start looking at the cameras and and I'm pretty sure we can even see the crew member like on screen, and they're all just like laughing at me seeing them. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then when I concentrate so hard on it that they just fall back into character, it's almost like they give me this cheeky look, like they're like, oh yeah, he's noticing. And then they start like playing with one another, like, or acting with one another. And just the movie almost resumes. So then I'll calm down and be like, what was I just seeing? And then it starts happening again in front of me. It was almost as if they didn't want me to freak out. They just wanted me to stay calm and they were like, let us show you our ultimate power, but just don't freak out while we do it. So if you start freaking out too much, we're not going to show you. We're just going to go back to how things were. And obviously this sounds insane for me to like take it seriously. Obviously most people, especially people who haven't gone through this sort of stuff, will immediately dismiss it, as I definitely would have before I went through this stuff. I think I dismissed it at the time, to be honest. I think I went through this stuff and it was just too much that I just literally was like, the day after I was like, I was just tripping balls. You know, I didn't really think about it. I didn't question at all what I was truly going through. Not until I started taking tripping more seriously, not until I started, realizing that I could tap into this stuff more if I respected psychedelic use more. And, I started doing it by myself, started meditating, started just doing psychedelics right and doing it a lot less frequently and stuff like that, trying to integrate what I learned. And when I started doing that, I started taking the experiences way more literally. But anyway, guys, man, I'm sorry that wasn't like a strictly trip report. That was kind of a little bit all over the place. But yeah, that's the video anyway.